Can I ask you some questions about biodefense?
Yeah.
Because some of the stuff you guys work on, or quite responsibly choose not to work on,
Yeah.
can keep one up at night. Mirror life.
Yes.
Given the fact that it's like physically possible, why doesn't it just happen at some point? Like someday it'll get cheap enough, or somebody will care about it enough that somebody just does it. What's the equilibrium here?
Right. I was a co-author on a paper that warned about the dangers of mirror life. Just like, I wrote a paper long ago about the dangers of having the synthetic capabilities we have for making synthetic viruses, and to some extent of having new genetic codes. They have a few things in common, but the thing about the advance that we were recognizing in our science paper that was warning about mirror life is that we not only had to calculate what the possibility of error-prone, escape or something like that. We don't want anything to escape that we made in the lab unless there's a general societal consensus it's a good thing. And so far, there aren't too many examples of that. But aren't any examples of that. But mirror life, if it can be weaponized, then we took it to a whole nother level of concern. And the concern was that if we got it to a certain point, then it would be easy to weaponize it. And again, there's practical considerations. It may be that most people who would consider weaponizing mirror life would probably be satisfied weaponizing viruses that already exist, that are already pathogens. Yeah. And they wouldn't want to destroy themselves and their family and their legacy and everything like that. But all it takes is one group probably, or one person. But your question is it inevitable? I don't know. Might be. It's quite possible it's already here. In other words, we already have mirror life in our solar system, or maybe even on our planet. It just hasn't been weaponized, right? And so it's just like what we were saying in the science paper is this seems like the sort of thing that could wipe out all competing life if we're properly weaponized. But there are probably a few things like that. And what we really need to do is reduce the motivation to do that, maybe increase our preparedness for a variety of existential threats, some of which will be natural, some of which will be, one disgruntled person who has essentially too much power because, over history of humanity, the amount of things that a single person can do has grown very significantly. I mean, it used to be when you had your bare hands, there's kind of a limit to what one person could do. A large number of people could team up and get let's say a mammoth or something like that. But today, one person with the right connections or right access to technology, could blow up a city, right? And that's a huge increase in capability. And I think we want to start dialing that back a little bit somehow.
And then what does that look like in terms of not just mirror life, but synthetic biology in general? Maybe we're at an elevated period of the ratio to offense and defense. But how do we get to an end state where even if there's lots of people running around with bad motivations, that somehow there's defenses built up that we would still survive, that we're robust against that kind of thing? Or is such an equilibrium possible, or will offense always be privileged in this game?
Offense awfully does have an advantage, but so far we haven't. We made it through the Cold War without blowing up any hydrogen bombs, as far as I know, accidentally or intentionally on enemies. We did 2 atomic bombs, but a lot of that is based on the difficulty of building hydrogen or atomic bombs. The thing that's alarming to people like me is that biotechnology enables smaller and smaller efforts, harder and harder to detect, harder and more and more subtle to the stochastic variation between people.
Right.
There's some people that are just so happy they would never want to do anything close to that,
Yeah.
or they're so responsible or ethical or whatever. And then there are other people who, like, whenever they have a bad day, they want to take a lot of people with them, right? And maybe some progress in psychiatric medicine would help. Again, you don't want to force that on people. You want to make sure that that if they don't want to get cured, you can't force them, but you can make it available to them. That might help.
Hopefully, there's a more technological solution or more robust solution than.
Well, there will be technological solutions to the psychiatric problem. It could be this. Even people who aren't sure whether they want to be helped or not can try it out, and it's reversible, and they say, yes, I like that better. Okay, let's try that. Then there's other things that cause you to have bad days. It's not just your psyche; it's also the environment. So if you're surrounded by your people, being starved or infectious disease or being shot at or something like that, those are things that are subject to sociological and technological solutions. And if we could really solve a lot of that stuff, we could reduce the probability that one person.
This is making me pessimistic, because you're basically saying we got to solve all of society's problems before we don't have to worry about synthetic biology. Which I'm not that optimistic about. We'll solve some of them.
I'm not trying to reassure you. We're having a conversation about what it takes, and that might be as one scenario for what it might take.
If you enjoyed this clip, you can watch the full episode here and subscribe for more clips. Thanks.